Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 2000's Represent. We're starting off 2001 here with an album. In this episode, we're talking about Beautiful Garbage by Garbage. So, the third studio album by Garbage, one of my favorite bands of all time. Seen them live like 8 times, soon to be 9 when they play here in, I think, in October. Just been a huge fan of them since 1995. And this is a really good record from them. It's not my favorite. I think I maybe put it at like, they've released 8 so far. I think it's like my fourth favorite. I probably go version 2.0, clearly like my favorite. Then their debut, just self-titled. Then probably No Gods, No Masters, and then probably this one. This one might rotate between third and fourth. I don't really know where I rank the rest of their albums. Their new album is really good as well. But yeah, this episode we're talking about this particular album. I have some notes here, but before we get to the notes, I actually have all of the versions of this album I've ever owned right here. So here we have the CD. Picked this up kind of shortly after it came out. Obviously, the back of the case is, seen better days. It's kind of cracked right there. But picked this up close to release. You've got the little thing there. You can pop this off. You got the band photo. And the cool thing is, this CD included a thing if you put it into a PC. And I actually just tested this on this computer. There was a little bit of a remixing software. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. But the remixing software still kind of works. So it allowed you to remix a few different tracks. I think Androgyny is the only track that you can actually still remix with, because I think the website that downloaded or streamed or whatever it did to the other tracks is obviously long gone. But you can still remix Androgyny. It's kind of cool. So that's the CD. And then in 2012, I picked up a record player in 2011. And wanted to start picking up Garbage records. I remember going into a record store, asking them if they had any records by Garbage or older ones, because I think the only one that was available at the time was their fifth one. I think it's like the fifth, yeah. Their fifth record, which was Not Your Kind of People. Yeah, so they've done 4 since this, coming back in 2012. And the guy was saying, like a lot of those never got released in wide numbers, at least in the United States. A lot of them were more foreign releases. And I did have to import pretty much all of the records that were prior to them coming back in 2012. I had to basically import all of those. And then their fourth record, they for some reason never did a vinyl release. They eventually did a vinyl release of that, I think, last year. So Bleed Like Me eventually got released on vinyl. But this is my 2001, the album here. And I believe I had to import this one from the UK. Don't remember what I paid for it. It was probably like $40 or $50 once you convert to like US currency. But yeah, I picked up the version 2.0 from Japan. Imported that one from Japan. Imported this one from the UK, and then their debut, self-titled, I imported that from the UK as well. And then eventually in 2021, they did a deluxe kind of reissue. I actually guess I have it's right on the shelf over here. Just got to grab it really quick. Let me just pull this up. That's like all my other Garbage CDs. But here is the CD release of the 20th anniversary. That includes a bunch of like remixes and B-sides. And then here is the vinyl edition of that, the deluxe vinyl edition of this album. It's a great, like I said, it's an amazing album. So basically, I've owned it on CD twice and vinyl twice, original pressings and then anniversary editions. But yeah, that is just in completing that collection, at least that initial 3 album collection before any of that stuff was kind of getting reissued or remastered or whatever. It's probably one of the chunks of my vinyl collection that I'm the most proud of, because I had to go through, track all that down, and import it. eventually all that stuff did get re-released at some point. Like I think in 2015 they re-released the debut. 2018 version 2.0 got like another vinyl release. Because for a while the vinyl edition of version 2.0 was like, I remember seeing it as like upwards of like $200 for like an original pressing. I think I paid like 70 for mine. But we are going to now get into our notes. Got my notebook here, and then we'll discuss the album and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, the album first released in October 1st, 2001. I think it came out a few days before that in Japan, and then the kind of major worldwide release was October 1st. Again, like we mentioned, this is their third studio album. A lot of cool stuff from this is on a documentary. I think the documentary was part of was it like the Absolute Garbage collection? I think that's where I first saw it, like in 2007 or so. And the documentary is called "Thanks for Your Support." I'll leave a link in the description. I think there's like a version of that on YouTube that you can watch. A lot of the stuff off of basically it covers basically 1995 from when they first started out until 2005 when they did "Believe Like Me," and then eventually went on hiatus for like 7 years after that. Let me see here. This has a little bit more. The songs are simpler, a little bit more stripped back than version 2.0. I remember reading somewhere, or it may have been in a different documentary, that when they were doing version 2.0, Shirley was still like living in the United States, but going back to Scotland and wanted to go back to Scotland. She's like, hey, like you guys need to finish this record up soon, so I can I can go home basically. Like I think she was saying like if didn't put her foot down, that the other members of the band, so Butch Vig, Steve Barker, and Duke Erickson, would have just fiddled with knobs and messed around with like overdubs like forever basically. And that album has a lot of various like just like a lot of overdubs, a lot of like instruments, a lot of like effects. And I think this album has less of that, but that was kind of like an interesting thing where basically they had finished recording, but like the other members of the band were continuing to like tweak stuff, and Shirley had to basically just be like, hey, like we got to release something or master something so I can basically like go home for now. This initially apparently I didn't know this until doing this research for this album. Apparently this album was intended to be a B-side collection, so they recorded a couple tracks, I think during their version 2.0 tour. Those tracks ended up being kind of what would become Silence is Golden, and Till the Day I Die. So those were initially going to be a B-side collection, but around this time period, the record label, Alamo Sounds, ended up getting sold off to Universal Music Group. So they ended up putting the B-side collection on hold, but then took those two tracks that I just mentioned and worked them into what would eventually become this album, which would eventually become Beautiful Garbage. This was recorded in Smart Studios in Madison, Wisconsin. That's a studio that was owned by Butch Vig for many years. He hasn't owned it for a while, but I don't know if the building is still there. If I ever get out to Madison, that's kind of a thing I want to visit, just or at least like walk by or something like that, take a picture of it or something like that. And I think this is the last album of theirs that was entirely recorded at Smart Studios. There was a Smart Studios documentary. It was on Kickstarter like years ago that I remember backing and watching. It wasn't all about Garbage. It was mostly just about the history of the studio, the bands that recorded there, and things like that. I don't know if that ever got released to like DVD or anything like that, but I think it was just called the Smart Studio Story. It's worth checking out if you can find it. Again, I don't know if it's like streaming anywhere. I remember like since I backed it was streaming for a while on, but it was like only you could only watch it if you backed it. So again, I don't know if that ever got like a DVD release. But yeah, like I think everything else since Bleed Like Me has been recorded at essentially like other studios. So kind of the last one to get recorded there. Apparently there was a lack of promotion from the label. So kind of Garbage has gone on record saying their label kind of basically abandoned them after this came out, and they were kind of like it didn't perform particularly well. I think the lead single was Androgyny. That didn't do well. I don't remember like if they wanted to do a different lead single and the label was like, no, it's got to be this one or something like that. But I do have a quote here, a couple quotes. One from Shirley, one from Butch. I think a couple quotes from like Duke Erickson. Let me pull up my little notes here. So this was in, let me see what magazine I found it is. I think it was Classic Rock Magazine, and they thought the band kind of thought they were kind of done after this record, like that their careers would be over and things like that. And I think there was like a lot of tensions coming out of this record that kind of, I guess pun intended, bled into the next album to the point where they needed to take a very long break after Bleed Like Me. But Shirley Manson was quoted as saying, "I honestly thought that was the end of my career and that we were never going to recover. It took a long time for us as a band to regain our equilibrium and our confidence and our joy." And then I have some quotes here from Butch Vig about the production of the record. Let me actually just pull these up as well. And Butch says, basically this album is a, quote, much simpler record than version 2.0. All the songs sort of came from us playing live downstairs in smart studios with guitars, bass, and drums. That was the only conscious decision we made to make songs simpler. Some of the songs are still layered in spots compared to the last record. There's about half as many tracks. As far as sounds go, it's basically drums, bass, some heavy guitars, and Shirley singing. And then a quote from Duke Erickson, one of the other guitarists, says, quote, "A lot of songs took shape in just a few hours as opposed to a few months with the last record. Some of the songs obviously took a long time or we wouldn't have been in the studio for a full year, but a lot of them happened very quickly. Silence is Golden we recorded in basically 3 days and it was done. So Like a Rose, for the most part, was recorded in 3 hours. I think we spent a lot of time just trying to resist adding stuff to the new album because that was our tendency on the other two records. So kind of like I mentioned earlier, the other members of the band, so like Steve Marker, Butch Vig, Duke Erickson, were content to just kind of tweak the record for forever almost until Shirley had to come in and basically like tell them to get something ready to go. So they kind of made the decision with this record to kind of do much less of that. So now we're talking about the little the remixer on the CD. So if you had the CD and you put it into a CD drive on a computer, it would install some remixing software. I actually have the link. Let me bring the notes up here, what it actually was. So it was the songs that you could remix originally were Shut Your Mouth, Androgyny, Breaking Up the Girl, and Cherry Lips. They've done that in collaboration with Sonic Foundry, and basically it was like you could kind of like click on things and remix the song and things like that. Apparently they had a remix competition for remixing Androgyny, because that was the one that you could actually do offline. That's the only one that actually still works on the remixer. And I think the winners got some like some of the actual like remixing software. Let me actually see what the software was. The winners got basically like Acid Pro, SoundForge, and Vegas Audio with some extra stuff as well. But yeah, the cool thing is that remixer still works. It's kind of unfortunate though because only one of the 4 songs is still remixable. I actually tested that on my computer just before doing this video, and like I'm kind of surprised the software actually even still works, because it's a 2001 software in 2025. A lot of times Windows won't even run that, at least not natively through, unless you're doing something like a virtual virtual machine or something. But it was still a really cool thing to mess around with at the time. So you can kind of like click on various like samples and bits of the song and loops, and kind of remix your own songs. It was a lot of fun. But like unfortunately, Androgyny is the only one that you can still do that with. What we got here. Now we're gonna move into some reviews of this album and then the track list. So reviews, it kind of was a little bit middling in some, but some good reviews. I think it's kind of taken on. I think retrospectively, I think a lot of people actually like this more than when it came out, because when it came out, it kind of, at least commercially, kind of flopped a little bit. had some bad release timing, I guess, with with the whole 9/11 happening like a few weeks right before, a couple weeks before it. But anyhow, so the reviews are Metacritic has it at a 69 out of 100, while AllMusic has it at a 3 out of 5. Um, Entertainment Weekly gave it a B. Kerrang gave it looks like a 5 out of 5. NME only gave it a 5 out of 10, while Q has it at a 4 out of 5. The Rolling Stone Album Guide has it at a 4 out of 5. The Sunday Tribune has it at a 5 out of 5, and Uncut has it at a 5 out of 5. So some decent reviews on some of those, some kind of in the middle, like Enemy only giving it a 5 out of 10, or a B from, what is it, Entertainment Weekly, kind of a little bit middling there. But I think since, at least since the re-release of the 20th anniversary edition, I think there's been a turnaround on a lot of people's opinions on this album. I think it was people were probably overly critical of it. Like at the time, the record label didn't really help promote it very well. And I think that's even what the band has said, that it kind of, they didn't have a lot of help from their label to promote the album. But now we're going to move into our track listing here. So track listing, let me pull that up. All right, so the album comes in about 53 minutes. It's got 13 tracks. In the original, there's a few extra tracks you listen to, like an International Addiction. The International Addiction actually has the Beautiful Garbage mixer, which is, I think, just a collection of the sound loops and the things that are off the remixing package. But it's like a track that you can actually listen to. It's kind of weird. It doesn't really it's just like the vocal, not vocals, but the effects and things like that. But anyhow, so track 1 is Shut Your Mouth. That was great. Track 2 is Androgyny. I actually really like pretty much every song on this album. I don't know if there's any I would if I listen to it, if I would skip any. Yeah, I don't think there's any skips on this, actually. So track 2, again, is Androgyny. Track 3 is Can't Cry These Tears. Track 4 is Till the Day I Die. Track 5 is Cup of Coffee. Track 6 is Silence is Golden. Track 7, probably the most popular track on the album, and definitely one that basically they play live all the time, or maybe not all the time, but very, very often, is Cherry Lips, Go Baby Go. It's got a great music video as well. Track 8 is Breaking Up the Girl. I really like that one. Track 9 is Drive You Home. Track 10 is Parade. Parade's actually I don't think it ever became a single. I think the ones that actually were singles off this are Shut Your Mouth, Androgyny, Cherry Lips, and Breaking Up the Girl. But Parade is really good. Track 11 is Nobody Loves You. Track 12 is Untouchable, and track 13 is So Like a Rose. Keeping in the tradition of having kind of a more ballady song at the end. On the first album we had Milk, and then on version 2.0 we had You Look So Fine, and we had So Like a Rose on this album. But the 20th anniversary adds in a bunch of bonus tracks, especially on the vinyl. You have some covers on here, so you have the bonus tracks on the vinyl edition in 20th anniversary are Candy Says. Then you have Use Me, Sex Never Goes Out of Fashion, Begging Mode, April 10th, Happiness Part 2, Confidence, Enough Is Never Enough, Wild Horses. I'm really into techno. It was just I'm really into techno. It's kind of a silly track there. And then the other tracks here, you have some covers. So you have Pride in the Name of Love, which is a U2 cover. That's a live recording of that. Then you have some remixes. So there's an Androgyny remix, Till the Day I Die, a demo of that. Nobody Loves You, which is the rough mix, which is basically their a demo almost. You have the acoustic version of Breaking Up the Girl. You have a demo of Silence is Golden, and you have a rough mix of Can't Cry These Tears, a live recording of Shut Your Mouth, and a demo version of Begging Mode. Again, these are on the CD of the 20th anniversary. And then you have just a bunch of different remixes on the other ones. So a bunch of Shut Your Mouth has 3 remixes. Androgyny has a few. Breaking Up the Girl has, I think, 4 remixes. 5 remixes of Cherry Lips, and a remix of Parade. So yeah, the deluxe editions that they did for the 20th anniversary are just absolutely like stacked with extras. It's definitely worth picking that one up. Like I said, I have the CD from the original release, I have the original vinyl, and then I have the 20th anniversary vinyl, like the deluxe of that, and then the CD as well. But yeah, this is just an incredible album. I think it's actually, like I said, like over time, it's gotten better. I think it kind of was what's the word I'm looking for? Like it was kind of like people were overly critical of it. I think initially, but also it was a follow up to version 2.0, and I think version 2.0 is, in my opinion, their best album. I don't think any albums really come close to that. Yeah, version 2.0 is just kind of like lightning in a bottle. All their other albums are really good, but I think that one to me just stands out above the rest. So kind of anything that came out immediately after that was going to probably be compared to it in a way, and maybe even like lowered in some people's minds based on the timing of when it came out. But yeah, it's an incredible album from one of my favorite bands. I'm really happy to own all of the kind, like especially the original pressing, which was a lot of, not really a lot of work, but I had to like go through. I think I got it through like Discogs back in like 2012 or something like that. But that is going to do it for this episode. Again, we'll be doing these once a week on Mondays. So next Monday we'll have a movie from 2001. Week after we'll do a video game, and then we'll move into 2002, like we do for all these other series. So that's going to do for now. So remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.